All right, so hopefully everybody can see that. All right, so today we're going to be talking about internships and specifically how to ask for an internship. So I'm sure that you are all aware of the traditional process of applying to internships. But what do you do if you can't find the specific internships that you are interested in, or maybe you think they don't exist? So we're going to talk a little bit about how to find specifically what you're looking for by asking. And let's go ahead and move on. All right, I wanted to start off with this quote because I think this is something that a lot of students and even just professionals in general don't realize. But there is something called a hidden job market. And best believe that actually at least 70%, if not 80% of jobs are not published in a traditional sense, like on a job board or on like the HR hiring website, for example. And I actually do have a personal story that I'm going to share a little bit more about. And the story goes is that when I was in grad school, I really needed to find a summer internship. And I specifically wanted an internship working in an admissions office because I was interested in going into higher education. And admissions was something that I was super interested in, but never had any experience with. So I just decided to go ahead and email pretty much a bunch of different directors of admission offices in the Southern California area and just ask if they had any internship opportunities available that upcoming summer. I also included my resume, shared a little bit about myself, why I was interested in this particular section of higher education. I got a lot of no's. But one of the no's actually turned into a yes. So about 3 to 4 months later down, I received an email from one of the directors that originally said no, and they actually said, actually, we do need help this summer. We'd like to create something for you. And it was paid, so that was really awesome. So this just goes to show you that you never know what might happen later on or what the needs are of a company or organization might be, but it never hurts to ask, right? So let's go ahead and kind of talk a little bit more about what specific strategies you can use when trying to find various internships or maybe part-time jobs. One important thing that you should be doing now is using and expanding your circle of connections, all right? Networking often has like a bitter connotation, so we're just going to talk about circle of connections because we all have circles of connections, and that may be your friends, that may be coworkers, past supervisors, family, so on and so forth. So if you don't have a LinkedIn, then that is definitely something that you want to do now during summer. Patrick and I are happy to help you out at SSARC in kind of starting your first LinkedIn. But I would say this is probably one of the easiest ways to make connections online. It's just literally a professional Facebook. And of course, you can reach out on LinkedIn to your former supervisors. It's okay to do that. You might also want to reach out to maybe alumni of UCI as well. One of the greatest networks that you can use is called the Anteater Network. It's something that UCI created so that you can connect with actual UCI alumni. We always encourage students to reach out to past alumni or maybe professionals and set up informational interviews with contacts in the industry that you are interested in. So what is an informational interview? It's pretty much you're learning more about their personal and professional trajectory. You're not specifically asking for anything, but you never know what might happen after getting to know that specific professional. And then, of course, you also want to make sure that you're letting your friends and your family members know that you are looking for jobs, you're looking for internships, because, that one uncle might say, actually, hey, my company is hiring, or, oh, I have a friend who has a nonprofit and they're looking for interns. So you never know what might happen. So it's really important to kind of broadcast specifically what you're looking for to your circle of connections. Oftentimes when I do meet with students, They always tell me what they're looking for. And if I can think about maybe a particular person that I should connect them with, or a particular job that I saw posted, I'm going to make sure I do my due diligence in connecting those people, or connecting the student with that opportunity. And so important to really utilize your network right now, especially, during COVID-19 times, right? Another really important strategy is just to contact employers directly. So what does that mean? I mean cold calling, I mean cold emailing, or, if it's safe to do so, actually visiting the person as well. So, or visiting the actual company. And so the story that I told you earlier, that was a complete cold email. I didn't know any of those people, but I decided to reach out. There's also this one example. One of our students recently found a remote position in Washington, D.C., just by simply cold calling that particular organization. So although it does sound very intimidating to do a cold email, a cold call, or just randomly show up to an office and ask about opportunities, oftentimes it does work. And if it doesn't work, it might work later on. They might remember you. They might have opportunities available later on. Maybe you give them your card, your contact information. So these are certainly things that you can consider in doing as well. And we're actually going to talk a little bit more about how to send a cold email very soon. Another strategy that I think definitely goes under the radar is kind of leveraging media. So this could be social media, this could be print media, just online newsletters, or articles that you've been reading. Perhaps you have a Twitter account, maybe you're following specific organizations that you hopefully one day want to work at, maybe like you're following Facebook or Twitter or whatever it might be. But it's really important to follow these particular organizations so that way you can stay up to date to what's going on. Maybe they're expanding their organization, they're expanding their company, Amazon's building a new building at some other state, whatever it may be. This is super important so that way you can kind of stay ahead of the track. So even though they might not be advertising those specific positions yet, but you know that they're going to get bigger, they're expanding, they're growing, maybe they're a startup, for example. Don't be afraid to reach out earlier on in the process rather than waiting for them to post something on their website or post something on a job board. So this is very important as well. I've heard, students reaching out via social media. And so, I think we're in very much different times, obviously being a remote and being ahead of kind of technological opportunities as well. All right, so keep moving along. Okay, so this is kind of the sample kind of cold call email that I was talking about. So one of the important things is when you're emailing someone or even when you're calling, you don't want to make it long, right? You want to make it short, to the point. Let your resume, let your cover letter do most of the talking, but you still want to grab their attention. So one of the easiest ways that you can do that is just by having some type of catchy subject title. So instead of saying internship inquiry, that sounds really boring and very generic. How about you actually put a little bit more personality into it? So if let's say you're a business econ student, so you could even insert a UCI, because then they're a UCI student. Like that actually says something. A business economics student interested in helping your team. So thinking about what can I contribute to this particular person. You are open to helping out. Things that, like I said, you want to attach is your cover letter, your resume. At SSARC, we can certainly help you with your cover letter as well as assisting you in creating your own resume. Maybe you haven't made one in a really long time or need just updating. Or we can also help you with your curriculum vitae, which just is a longer version of a resume. And so another really important thing when it comes to this email is you want to find a specific person to email. So that does mean a little bit of stalking on their website to learn more about who has that specific position that might oversee maybe an intern, or maybe you look at a specific department and who's the head person. pretty much you're looking for a decision maker. Who would be the decision maker in this? And then specifically put a name to it. And I think that often gets more attention than if you just said to whom may it concern. Another really important thing is introducing yourself. So let them know that, you know, what year you are, what major, where you go to school, specifically what you're looking for, right? And then what specific internship opportunities are you interested in? So I left it kind of open-ended here. I'm interested in paid or non-paid. With that example that I gave you for my own personal example, I didn't specifically ask to be paid, but they actually paid me. So it's nice to be able to be broad and open that up. And then ask specifically time frame. You know, you're looking for something during fall, you know, summer, so on and so forth. And then talk a little bit about what your specific interests are. So this person is really interested in real estate, investment fund audits. So they got very specific in what they're interested in and how they kind of took the initiative to say, I've attached my resume and cover letter for your convenience. And at the bottom here, it could be something open-ended like, I look forward to hearing from you. Or if you want to be a little bit more direct, you could say, can I maybe set up a call with you sometime next week? Or here's my availability to meet over Zoom. Or, you know, I would like to set up a call with you. So that's also an opportunity as well in order to elicit a response. And then of course you want to sign off with a nice signature. Oftentimes students put in here, you know, more information about themselves, maybe their LinkedIn, link that they want to share, or maybe they have like a blog or a website that they want to share. You can also put that in your email signature. So there's that. Patrick, is there anything else that you want to add that I've said so far at all?
At the moment, no, because I think when it comes to actually, sorry, as I was thinking about it, I realized when it comes to doing these types of emails, you have to also take into account what Carissa mentioned about the amount of emails that she actually sent out, because you're most likely going to be falling into a lot of different rejections when you're actually reaching out to these people. Take into consideration the time of when you send your emails, take into consideration the length, and also just be wary that you might have to do this multiple times. So even if you don't get responded to by somebody, send a follow-up email a week after. And then if for some reason they don't get back to you, then go ahead and try to move on to a different company and see if you can find an opportunity there. The one thing that I think we always forget to mention is just how rigorous the job search can be. But it is possible if you have the right place at the right time, and if your experiences and your skill set actually fits with what the company needs as well. So just some other things to consider as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as silly as it sounds, like the timing of your email is also pretty important. So you want to avoid like Friday afternoons, for example. I think morning is often the best time to kind of get someone's attention at like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever it might be. And towards the middle of the week, right? Or even the beginning of the week. Let's say like a Tuesday at 8 a.m., then they have Wednesday, Thursday, and hopefully Friday to be able to respond to you, if not the next week. But that's a really good point. So right now we're actually going to be, I believe, talking a little bit more about just some other internship opportunities that we want to just share with you. And these are things that we've been promoting in our past webinars. But there is something called micro internships available through the Division of Career Pathways. So what these are more project-based opportunities that you can apply to through the Division of Career Pathways website. They are paid positions. So it's not like you have an entire internship for a month or like the entire quarter, but this is more of like you do a project, you get paid for it, and you get experience to work with different companies or organizations. And then of course there's Social Sciences 197, which is specifically for social science students in order to get credit for the internship that you're doing. I know right now a lot of students, what they're facing is their internships are not going to be able to pay them. So what you can do is get academic credit for those particular internships. And then a lot of those internships actually require like only academic credit. You can get anywhere from 2 to 4 units. We do have sessions available during, right now, summer session 1, there are students in there, and then also summer session 2. If you would like to learn more, we're happy to talk to you further about that process, but you can also search for more information on our website as well. And then just want to kind of also restate that SSARC is available this summer. You can meet with us via consultations. You can have a 30-minute consultation with Patrick and I. You can also send us an email at sarc@uci.edu. And of course, hopefully you're following us on Facebook and Instagram. We post a lot of various opportunities on there too. But please schedule your consultation with us today. So we do have 10 minutes, good 10 minutes to answer your questions. So please keep them coming. Do we have any questions yet? I think we do.
We do. So we do have one question from Shirag. How do we go about asking on LinkedIn? Isn't it kind of awkward to just cold message people, and how do we balance not coming off as pushy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, it's not awkward, because that's what LinkedIn is all about. And I think you can do it in certainly a professional manner. I've definitely had students, grad students, professionals who reached out to me on LinkedIn, and just telling them, first of all, you can connect with them, or you could just send them an email. And then, tell them a little bit about yourself and specifically, what you're looking for. I would always say, in order to not be pushy, perhaps get to know them a little bit more. Like, I've looked on your LinkedIn profile. I see that you've had this experience. Would you be open to maybe calling or having a phone call with me just to learn more about your professional experiences and your professional background? And then in your actual in-person or virtual in-person Zoom meeting or phone call, that's where maybe you can share, like, I'm currently in the process of looking for internships. I would be grateful if you can kind of keep me in mind if there's any opportunities at your company. That's another kind of way to go about it if you're afraid of being, a little bit too pushy. But LinkedIn, that is what the platform is for. It's for to connect with people that you don't even know yet. And to be kind of open to connecting with people that maybe you don't know yet, but you're probably going to see them one day if they're certainly in within your circle. So for example, anytime that someone friends me that went to my my master's program, maybe I've never met them before, but I know that they went to the same master's program that I did, I'm going to friend them, and I'm going to accept their, connection request, because I know that students or grad students who are kind of struggling to find those opportunities or make connections, that's kind of one way that I can be back and be available for them as well. So just know that a lot of people are so willing to help out each other and to help out students during this time, especially. But I don't know, Patrick, do you want to maybe share a little bit more about your experience with LinkedIn?
Yeah, one of the things that I always find students may have difficulty with is just getting over the idea of, if I contact someone, is it going to be bothering them, or is it going to be coming off as a certain way? And I think when you have to think about it is, if you were in that position, how would you actually want to be responded to, and how would you want it for you to receive that message? So you can kind of look at it from their perspective as well. It's a hard thing to get over, this idea that you need to just put yourself out there, because really that's kind of how you kind of get these types of opportunities that are not quote unquote posted. I mean, even when I was a student, oftentimes the internships that I got, I went directly to the director of centers on campus, because I actually graduated from UCI too, but I went directly to centers on campus and just asked, hey, I'm a student here. This is the kind of opportunity I'm looking for. Do you know of any available? And the way that my methodology of asking for these things is, if they know something's available, not particularly asking in that particular place. That's the only reason why I did it that way when I was a student, was because I wanted to see if there was any ancillary types of opportunities that they can talk about, because most likely people who are offering positions may also know other people who are looking for positions as well. Hence why when you're using LinkedIn, it's a powerful tool, because people are going to be connected with other people who may be looking for jobs as well. If you ever talk to recruiters, you would know that they're always talking to other recruiters about potential hires in one place or another, and they might actually reference you to another one. So do the best that you can to put yourself out there. And that might be one of the things that you're going to have to do with practice. And of course, Chris and I are always here to kind of help you get over those nerves and just kind of get your information out there when you need it.
Yeah. So one of the other questions that someone said is it okay to use that similar text on a LinkedIn bio? So Is it LinkedIn bio? So your LinkedIn bio is like telling about yourself, right? Who you are, and maybe potentially what you're looking for, or just who you are as a professional. I would say your bio is a little bit more personal. It might share a little bit more about like years of experience that you might have in a specific area, or who you are and like your strengths, perhaps your values. I would say it's a little bit different, different text. If you're asking in terms of, is this verbiage okay to use in like a LinkedIn message to someone, then yeah, absolutely. You can certainly use that similar messaging in a LinkedIn message to someone. But I would say for your bio, that's going to look a little bit different. You can certainly, because think about what is not in your LinkedIn profile. Because if you say, I'm a UCI student, well, they're going to see that in your profile. What is something that maybe isn't really shared? And that might be more of like who you are as a colleague, or who you are as an employee, or who you are as a student. So I would be more strengths-based with your bio. Patrick, anything to add?
The one thing that you might want to consider doing is looking at other people's LinkedIn bios and look at their About Me section. Some people might talk a little bit about what their major contributions have been to their company that they just recently worked at, which is very similar to the kind of information that you would write on a cover letter as well. So as Krista said, try not to repeat any information that can already be found on other parts of your resume or other parts of your LinkedIn profile that outline specific descriptions about a particular job, but instead kind of express a little bit more about your personal idea about who you are, why you're searching for a particular job, why you're interested in a particular field. And that's kind of the thing that you want to put in that About Me section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another thing is, this bio is always ever evolving. Like it's something that I still need to work on too, even as a full-fledged professional. However, another thing that you can certainly utilize LinkedIn for is, with LinkedIn, you have your name, and then sometimes there's the area where you can put your title for something. And I think often students are like, well, what do I put? I don't have like a job or anything. I can't put that I am in this position. But what you can say is, kind of think about like your creative subject title for your email. It's kind of the same thing. So like, eager student looking for, opportunities in this. And so I've noticed like a big trend on LinkedIn right now is kind of that hashtag open to work. There's a lot of students obviously struggling right now to find opportunities, remote opportunities, or just internships or jobs in general. And so a lot of people are kind of like posting introductions of like, this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for. And so, hop on that, what's going on right now, and utilizing that to your advantage.
We do have another question here. To my understanding, you need to pay for internship units. Do students pay for them, or is it more like a negotiation? When is the start to enroll in summer session 2 academic internship class?
Mm-hmm. Good question. So for the internship social science 197, technically, yeah, you do have to pay summer session fees, but know that you are getting academic credit for that internship that you are doing. So that is something that you have to think about, if that internship site is like, we're not going to hire you unless you enroll in an academic course, well, then you kind of have no option. You have to like enroll it if you want that internship. But then there's internships that are like, sure, like you can work for us, but we're not going to pay you. And it's up to you if you want academic credit. And so that's something that you kind of have to think about. But we always encourage students to get some type of credit, and know that summer session has like a pay for 8 deal going on, as they typically do during every summer. So that means that you can enroll in like 10 units, for example, and then only pay for 8 units. So hopefully that answers your question. Patrick, anything else to add about 197? I think the enrollment period, you can enroll right now for summer session 2. I think the deadline is like late this month. I think late July is like the deadline to do so.
I can go ahead and look it up really quick just so I can see.
Yeah, I can answer this next question here. Do I use my email address or get a new one? Or do I use my UCI email address or get a new one for LinkedIn? You can certainly use your UCI email address, but know that once you become an alumni, will you be looking at your UCI email all the time? And if you want to create your a personal, I'm sure that many of you have your own personal email account, and just make sure it's professional, because when you insert your email account or use that particular email account for LinkedIn, that's how whoever's on LinkedIn can contact you. They can contact you via email if you have that public as well. Patrick, do students still use their UCI email address once they graduate? I'm sure that they do for some time.
Right. I think since 2000, I think it was 18, they actually allowed students to maintain their UCI domain email forever. So, because they used to make people actually have to sign up to be part of the alumni group at UCI, but I think nowadays they actually let you keep it. So you might want to double check either with the Alumni Association or the Registrar's Office. I believe they're the ones who might actually control that. Just double check to see if your UCI email is still going to be maintained. Otherwise, you might want to use a personal email like Carissa mentioned. And of course, if you do have a personal email, it's going to be just as effective as also being a UCI student.
Yeah, and eventually you won't be at UCI anymore. So if you don't have a personal email address, I suggest creating one, a professional looking one, just your name is fine. Because at some point when you're 40, you're not going to be using your UCI email address. So one thing
unless
to be
you work
aware,
there.
Unless you work there, that is true. There's another question on LinkedIn. Do you recommend adding descriptive details or just the general title and company? So this is a good question as well. For the specific details, it shouldn't be the same as copying and pasting your resume where you have bullet points. But rather it should be, I would say, anywhere from 3 sentences to a paragraph, really, of kind of your main responsibilities and duties or specific accomplishments as well. So it shouldn't flow like your resume or your CV, but more of paragraph form. Patrick, anything to add to this?
For that particular one, don't think so. I mean, you do want to add a little bit more detail, but you don't want to make it the same thing as your resume, because you might also consider uploading a version of your resume onto the description as well in LinkedIn. So that's something that you might want to consider.
Yeah, so to answer your question, yes, please put details, not just your, organization and title. Next question, when we are trying to attach the cover letter in the application, if we don't know who's looking for the email, how can we write the to at the beginning of the letter? So I'm guessing, so if you don't know who you're writing to, right? You can always default to, dear hiring committee or hiring manager. That is probably better than to whom may it concern. But when in doubt, you can always just ask, call HR and say, who is going to be, the person overseeing this particular individual, or who's the hiring manager for this. You can always just call or email and just double check and ask for it. It is always better to have that particular name. Yeah. So I think that is all the questions that we have going on, unless I'm missing anything.
There is a comment. One of your colleagues has found a link that kind of explains that your email is actually going to be intact. So let me just put that in there just so that you all have access to see where that information is, to know that your email is going to stay. So if you wanted to use your UCI email, and
I'm sorry. Oh, someone is 44. Oh, goodness. That is true. I am sorry for those who technically are older students or non-traditional students. That is very true. You are using your UCI email account. My apologies.
But yes, so you do have that information, and I think that is all the time that we have.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Hopefully you can join us next week for our next topic. I think it's about research, potentially.
Yes. Next week
Okay,
is
yes.
learning about, if you are interested in doing some kind of research in your undergrad experience, if you are still continuing or if you've already graduated and you still want to join in, we are going to be talking about how to define your research for your academics. So please make sure to join next week.
All right. Well, thank you so much and take care and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.